Fargo Season 1. Now, Fargo Season 1 is created by Hawley and basically tells the story of Lester Nygaard, played by Freeman in the show, who murders his own wife, and at the same time, though, has some dark connections to this character called Lord Malvo, who's a mass serial killer, played by Billy Bob Thornton in the show. And basically, throughout this season of Fargo, we watch Lester Nygaard as he tries to get away with murder. But at the same time, though, things are a bit more complex than they may seem. At the same time, though, the police are also trying to investigate the murder that has gone on with his wife, but they don't know Lester has done it. And at the same time, though, police woman, played by Allison Tolman, comes in and starts to get a bit suspicious of Lester. And at the same time, though, we also have this other police officer, played by Colin Hanks, who at the same time, though, has a key connection to Lord Malvo in the investigation of what's going on with his character. And at the same time, though, it's not just the police that are after Lester Nygaard and Lord Malvo. No, we also have two henchmen who pop up throughout the show. The shop owner, played by Platt in the series, and at the same time, though, loads of other characters. But the main plot of the show was on Lester Nygaard, played by Freeman, who murdered his own wife, and at the same time, though, has some dark connections to this mass serial killer played by Billy Bob Thornton, who's called Lord Malvo in the show. And basically, throughout the show, you watch Lester Nygaard as he tries to get away with murder. And that's basically the plot of Fargo Season 1. And honestly, I just think this show is absolutely incredible. It's one of my all-time favourite TV shows. It really is. And yes, it is a follow-up from the Coen Brothers film, which I've been not so long on this channel. The 1996 Coen Brothers film with the same name. But the thing is, though, it's not a copy of that show. Like, the people who created this show, the writers of this show, didn't just look at the Fargo film and go, okay, we're going to make a TV show out of that. No, they made their own thing. And that's what I absolutely love about this show, the fact that it is its own thing, and the fact that, to be honest, I actually prefer over the Coen Brothers film. I prefer the show over the Fargo film. Now, I might be the minority there, but to be honest, I just think this show is absolutely incredible, and I prefer it over the film, maybe because I saw this before the film, I must admit, because by the time I was waiting for the third season of the show to air, I actually watched the Fargo film, and I just remember, I didn't feel that fulfilled by it. I didn't like it that much the first time I watched. I mean, I watched the film again recently, and I actually liked it a lot more, but the thing is, the first time I saw it, I just kept comparing it to the TV show. But the thing is, the TV show, you spend so much more time with the characters, and you get a more drawn-out story, and at the same time, though, I think that's best in my opinion. I like they get to spend more time with the characters, because people like Lester Nygaard, I think, is a really interesting character, and just getting to spend more time with him, I think, is something that's really, really fantastic about the show. I love the unique stories on the show. I love the uniqueness and brilliance of the way this show is written, because yes, it is a crime drama in the end. It's a crime drama TV show, and you get loads of them. You know, you get loads of crime drama TV shows nowadays where you get two police officers who are trying to investigate a murder and it takes them about an hour or two to do so. But things with this show, you already know who's done the murder. You still have the police trying to investigate the murder, but you know who's done it. You know Lester Nygaard has done the murder. We see that in the opening episode of the season. But the thing is, though, they don't know he's done the murder, but we do. So basically, we watch Lester Nygaard try and get away with murder, and all the police trying to investigate him. He keeps going with these alibis, he keeps framing other people, and I love that about the show. The fact that we know who the murderer is, but the police officers that we follow in the show as well don't. Like that Allison Tolman plays, we know that she's on the right lines with who's done the murder, who killed Lester's wife. We know that she actually starts to realise that Lester might have killed his wife, but at the same time, though, all the people around her, like there's a police officer played by Bob Odenkirk, who starts to doubt her. And that's what's so unique about the show, the fact that we know where these characters are going right and wrong, but the characters themselves don't. And I love that about the show. I love that you know who's done the murder, but the characters in the show don't. And I just think that's so unique about the show. I love the way the show is written. I love that it constantly builds up in tension. I love the way that characters are in the show. I love the character Lester Nygaard. I think that's a brilliant character. I also think Freeman gives off his best performance in that role as Lester Nygaard. I think that is the best Freeman performance I've seen him. Don't get me wrong, I think Freeman's a great actor. I really enjoy him in everything he's in. I even enjoyed him in Black Panther, and I'm not really a fan of Black Panther. And at the same time, I also really enjoyed him in the Hobbit films. I mean, he actually made some of those Hobbit films for me. And at the same time, I really enjoyed him in the Sherlock series as well. But in my opinion, this is the best Freeman performance, because honestly, he just plays that character so well. And at the same time, though, he also has a good American accent. He's just like a really good American accent in the show, which is kind of odd, because he's doing quite a bad American accent in the Black Panther films. And honestly, that's what makes me laugh, the fact that he's just such a good American accent here, but quite a bad American accent in Black Panther and Captain America Civil War. But anyway, going back onto the topic of Fargo, I love that character, and I love the way Freeman plays him. Like, the thing is, he's not doing a William H. Macy. Like, he is playing a very similar character than William H. Macy played in the Fargo film, even to the point of having the names which are quite similar. Like, you know, Freeman's character in this show is called Lester Nygaard, and William H. Macy's character in the Fargo film is called Jerry Lundegaard. I think that's what his name is. Yeah, Jerry Lundegaard in that show. So obviously they have quite similar names, but the thing is, though, Freeman's not doing a William H. Macy, which is what I love about the show. He's doing his own thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some strong similarities with those characters, but he's doing his own thing, and I love that about the show. I love Freeman's performance, and I love the character Lester Nygaard, because you do feel sorry for him, like at the start of the season, but then you start to realise that he's quite an evil person, and he's actually got quite a dark connection to Lord Marvel, even to the point of becoming like Lord Marvel in some stages, but like becoming this mass serial killer. Not to give too much away, but he becomes very similar to Lord Marvel. Not to give too much away there, but I love the way his character plays out throughout the whole of the season. At the same time though, I think Billy Bob Thornton's performance as Lord Marvel is masterful. I love the character of Lord Marvel in the show. I love the way Billy Bob Thornton plays that character, because he just brings that dark humour to the character in the best way possible. Like, he's such an evil character. He's a mass serial killer in the end, and you do see him do a lot of violent and really horrible stuff, to be honest. But the way Billy Bob Thornton plays that character is just so brilliant, because you do something really evil and there's just a bit of humour. Like, oh my god, I didn't see that coming, but it's so unique. It's just like the dark humour of the Coen brothers, which I'm going to go into later on this review. Just the dark humour of the Coen brothers they see in so many Coen brothers films, like the Fargo film, like I talked about before, or No Country for Old Men, or being in loads of their films. The dark humour which you get of the Coen brothers films is carried onto the show in the best way possible, and I love that about the show. And that's just exemplified in the character of Lord Marvel, played by Billy Bob Thornton in the show, who is masterful. Honestly, he's absolutely brilliant. And side note here, Billy Bob Thornton has actually worked with the Coen brothers before. I think he worked with them on Intolerable Cruelty, and I think he worked on some other films as well. He actually said that the Coen brothers were all for the show. So all those people who, big Coen brothers fans, who are a bit scared to watch Fargo and everything, the Coen brothers were all for it. According to Billy Bob Thornton, who's worked with the Coen brothers, who's good friends with the Coen brothers, actually said that the Coen brothers are all for the Fargo TV show. I love that about it. At the same time though, Allison Tolman's brilliant in the show, and she's not doing a Frances McDormand. Don't get me wrong, that's some very similar characteristics between both characters. The character played by Allison Tolman in this TV show, and the character played by Frances McDormand in the Fargo film. There are some very similar characters, but she's not doing a Frances McDormand. She's doing her own thing. At the same time though, I love Colin Hanks in the show, and yes, Colin Hanks is Tom Hanks' son. Don't know, little movie trivia there, but yes, he is Tom Hanks' son, but he is brilliant in the show. Colin Hanks is absolutely brilliant in the show. I love his performance, and I love the way that character is weaved into the plot. At the start of the show, you realise he might not be anything significant, and then it becomes quite significant to how the show turns out. Not to get too much away again. At the same time though, I love all these other characters in the show. Like, I love the character that Bob Odenkirk plays, how he constantly doubts Allison Tolman's character, who's getting closer and closer to, finding out that Lester Nygaard was the person who murdered his own wife. I love the way that Bob Odenkirk plays in the show. I think he's brilliant. At the same time though, I also love these two henchmen who pop up throughout the show, and they're just there, whether they're just chasing after Lester Nygaard or Lord Marvel. They just pop up throughout the show, and those two characters are absolutely brilliant. And every time they pop up, you always get drum music, boom, 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 boom. And it's great. It just feels so intense when those two henchmen pop up, and it's actually quite funny as well. They'll just pop up in the background of the scene, like, oh my god, I didn't see them there. You might start laughing just because of how odd it is, but how brilliant it is at the same time. And at the same time though, I love the character Oliver Platt plays. I love his storyline. I'm not going to go into too much detail there, but there's some biblical stuff that goes on there, which is brilliant in my opinion. And at the same time though, I love all these other characters in the show. I love the fact that, not to give too much away again here, but towards the end of the show, like in the third to last episode, it jumps a year ahead. It does the whole thing of jumping a year ahead, but 3 episodes before the end of the season. Like, normally if a show jumps a year ahead, it's done in the last episode, and the last episode is like 1 year after the events of what happened early on in the season. But actually, it's 3 episodes before the end of the season, it jumps a year ahead, and actually, I just think that's so unique about the show. The fact that it does something that all these other TV shows just wouldn't do. It plays on the whole crime drama format in the best way possible. You know who's done the murder. You know it's Lester Nygaard, and you watch him trying to get away with it. And at the same time, though, you know Allison Tolman's character is getting closer and closer to finding out that Lester Nygaard did do that murder. And then you watch Bob Odenkirk's character say, no, it couldn't have been Lester. It would have been Lester. He wouldn't have killed his own wife. And it's things like that in this season of Fargo, which just works so well. At the same time, though, go on to the whole thing with the Coen brothers. Yes, this is kind of a spin-off from the Coen brothers film. I would say it exists in the same universe. Both is a follow-on from the Fargo film, but it isn't, like I said, it isn't just the Fargo film stretched out into a TV show. Like I said, you spend more time with the characters, which I love about this show. You spend more time with the characters, and it's its own thing. Yes, like I said, there are some strong similarities to the Fargo film, but it's its own thing, which is what I love about the show. But at the same time, though, it takes off, the Coen brothers in the best way possible. Like, the way the show is shot, it's very Coen brothers-like filmmaking. It is very similar to Coen brothers filmmaking. There are a couple of moments in the show, like, that could have been out of a Coen brothers film. Just the way some of the episodes are shot and everything, I think is brilliantly directed. Every single episode, in my opinion, is brilliantly directed, and I just love the way it's shot, and it feels very Coen brothers-like, and I really like that about the show. There's quite a lot of moments in the show alone, which is similar to so many Coen brothers films, like, obviously, the Fargo film within itself, because obviously there's a Fargo TV show, but at the same time, though, not just the Fargo film, it's also similar to No Country for Old Men, which is another brilliant Coen brothers film. There's also moments in here which is similar to, Bat and Thing, which I've reviewed not too long ago on this channel, and a few moments in this show that are actually similar to something like The Big Lebowski. At the same time, though, one thing the show brilliantly carries over from the Coen brothers, like I said before, is dark humour. I love the dark humour of the show. I love how it's used with characters like Lester Nygaard, where you watch that character and you watch the evil things he does later on in the show, but then you actually kind of laugh at some stages, and the way Martin Freeman plays that character just brings the dark humour the best way possible. Same with Lord Malvo, same with Billy Bob Thornton's performance as Lord Malvo. I just love how those characters are so dark and evil, but they have those dark humorous moments in there as well. And at the same time, the two henchmen who are quite mean people, but then you always have the dark humour. Like one of the henchmen is actually deaf, and it's actually quite funny to watch a deaf henchman, interact with the henchman that isn't deaf. I think that's really funny to watch in the show, and it's just the dark humour in the show is brilliant. It's carried over from the Coen brothers in the best way possible. At the same time, though, one thing the show brilliantly carries over from the Fargo film is the whole thing with "This is a true story." The title card at the start of the season, at the start of every episode, you always get "This is a true story," like the Fargo film does. Even so, it's not a true story. That's just an insanely clever thing from the Coen brothers, which is also quite funny. Like in the Fargo film, it actually says, "This is a true story," but then actually isn't. But at the same time, though, it feels so realistic that it could be. That's also how I feel with the Fargo TV show. The fact that it says, "This is a true story," but you know it isn't. And I love that about the show, because it could be a true story. You watch all these characters, and the dialogue is so realistic, the performance is so realistic, the characters are so realistic. I mean, it's so realistic, even to the point that I was watching this show for the first time, and I actually thought it was a true story. I remember the first time I watched it, like back in 2014, when it first aired, the first season of Fargo. I was watching it, because I didn't get that whole joke, this is a true story. I didn't get that. And I was actually watching it thinking it was a true story. And then you find out that it's not a true story. You find out it's just a really clever joke that, the Coen brothers started for the Fargo film that was continued on into the Fargo TV show. And I just remember thinking to myself, wow, but that just shows you how realistic this show actually is. The fact that I believed that it was based on a true story. That shows you how realistic the show is. And at the same time, though, like I said, I think the storytelling in the show is so brilliant. I love the storytelling in the show. It's just so unique. I'm not going to get into the storytelling, but the way you find out things and the way things are crafted in the show just makes you want to watch on and on and on in the best way possible. And I love the show so much. If I was to have any criticisms, and I do, some moments in the show are a bit unnecessary, I must admit. Sometimes you get a scene in the show and it'll feel a bit unnecessary, and it actually is. And that was the whole thing about the Fargo film. Sometimes you'll watch scenes in, the Fargo film, and they'll feel a bit unnecessary, and actually they become quite important and quite meaningful. But then in the show, sometimes you watch some unnecessary scenes, and then they do actually become unnecessary in the grand scheme of things. And there's a couple of moments like that in the show, I must admit. And at the same time, though, I do think the first episode of the show is overlong. The first episode of the show is about an hour and a half, and it doesn't need to be. It could have been about an hour, and I think it would be far more effective. I think the first episode is a bit overlong, but watch on past the first episode, because actually past the first episode, things get really interesting. But I do think the first episode of the show is a bit overlong, and I would cut it down if it was me. But saying all that, though, like I said, this is one of my all-time favourite shows, especially the first season of this show, because it's just so brilliant. I love the way it's written, and every time I watch it, I watch this season of Fargo in particular 3 times now, all the way through. Every single time I watch this show, I just find so many other things I like about it. So many new and just fresh and exciting things I like about it. I just think it's so brilliant. I absolutely love it, and I might be in the minority here, but I prefer it over the Coen brothers film. I prefer it over the Fargo film. Honestly, I just love the storytelling in the show. I love the filmmaking in the show. I love the way that characters are developed in the show in these evil and fantastic ways. And at the same time, I love watching all these characters in the show. One thing I haven't mentioned yet, I love the musical score, which is, adapted from Carter Burwell's score from the Fargo film. But at the same time, though, it's made into this even grander score by Jeff Russo, which just works so well. I love the musical score of the show. I love the way it's written. I love the characters. I love that character will just show up in the background of the scene, and it might seem a bit dark at first, but then it actually becomes a bit funny. I love the dark humour in the show, which I forgot to mention again. I love the way the dark humour is inserted in the show in the best way possible. I love the way the story is told. I love the twist on the crime drama. The fact that you actually already know that Lester Nygaard has done this murder. You watch him trying to get away with murder. At the same time, though, you also watch the police officers, Allison Tolman's character, Bob Odenkirk's character, Colin Hanks' character, as they try and investigate what's going on in this murder, but you already know who's done the murder. I love things like that. I love a twist on the crime drama, because you see so many crime dramas nowadays, which is just like, who's done the murder? Let's take an hour to figure it out, but actually in Fargo, you know who's done the murder, and you watch this person trying to get away with murder, and it's brilliant. It's so much better than making it sound. Honestly, it really is. It's one of my all-time favourite TV shows, especially the first season. And we're going to go around to reviewing the other seasons, by the way. But the first season of Fargo, in my opinion, is just excellent. I love the way it's written. I love the way the story's told. I love the filmmaking. I love the performances. Everyone's brilliant in the show. I think it's brilliantly made. I think it's brilliantly written. And I absolutely love it. And at the same time though, one thing that I just have to reiterate is that it's its own thing. Yes, it shares some similarities with the Coen Brothers film with the same name, but at the same time though, it's its own thing, it's its own story, and that's what I absolutely love about it. You don't have to watch the Fargo film to understand the TV show. You don't. I hadn't watched the Fargo film before I'd watched the Fargo TV show, and yet I absolutely loved it. And the more times I watch season 1 of Fargo, the more times I love it. I think it's absolutely excellent, and I think it's one of the best TV shows I've ever seen. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that Fargo season 1, I'm going to say it's a 9 out of 10. Honestly, I can't recommend this TV show enough. Yes, the first episode is a bit over long, but stick with it, because I can show you now, you will not be disappointed when it gets to the end of the show. It sticks to landing in the best way possible the last episode. Honestly, I loved the last episode. And at the same time though, I absolutely love it. It's on Netflix right now. Go and check it out. It's absolutely brilliant. And I think it's so unique and so fantastic in its own amazing way. I think it's one of the most incredible TV shows I've ever seen. I think all the characters are brilliant, I think the performances are brilliant, and I just love the way that all the characters in the show are, come together in all these unique and special ways. I just think it's so brilliant. I love the fact that there's so many characters in the show as well, but yet at the same time, they're all significant to the grand scheme of the story of the show, and I just love that about the show. And at the same time though, I just think it's absolutely brilliant. I can't recommend it enough. I think it's one of the best TV shows I've ever seen. And honestly, I just think the show is absolutely incredible. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that Fargo season 1 is a 9 out of 10 for me. Anyway guys, what do you think of Fargo season 1? Please do comment down below and know your thoughts in the comment section below. Anyway guys, thank you as always for watching, and if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like, subscribe on the video, and look forward to many more both film and TV reviews come very soon on this channel. See you guys again soon, but bye for now, bye!